Dr. Felicia. I'm a licensed psychologist, and today I'm going to be answering a common question I get, which is, what do I do if I think that I may be in a spiritually abusive situation? Before I start that, I'm going to briefly describe to you what spiritual abuse is. Spiritual abuse occurs when somebody is leveraging or using spirituality as a way to harm instead of help or protect. And usually when they're doing this, they're using spirituality as a way of gaining control over the person who is being abused. And there are different ways spiritual abusers try to get control, but the main issues here are control and harming instead of helping. And an important point to remember is that spiritual abuse doesn't only occur with spiritual authorities, and it doesn't have to occur with a spiritual authority. Other people, particularly in a religious situation, can also spiritually abuse others, even though they may not have necessarily spiritual authority over them. And so that's really important to remember. Another thing is that spiritual abuse can occur when someone is actively harming someone else, but it can also occur when somebody has a hands-off approach and is indifferent to somebody else being hurt or harmed. And so let me explain what that looks like. Let's say somebody is experiencing a situation where they are being abused by someone else. Most oftentimes it's occurring with domestic violence. Perhaps a spouse is abusing someone else, or an intimate partner is abusing someone else, or a child. And so the person in this situation goes to receive help and say, look, this is happening. I don't know what to do. What should I do? Spiritual abuse can occur when the person that they're going to for help encourages them to go back to that abusive situation or doesn't do anything to step in and help. They might say something like, well, don't call the police or don't call anybody else, just go back, it's your job to keep the family intact. And so they are encouraging the abuse to continue. They're creating an environment that is allowing and perpetuating abuse. And so that is another way and a more subtle form of spiritual abuse. And so people often will ask, well, how do I know I'm in a spiritually abusive situation? And the first thing I would say is if there's any harm happening to you or somebody that you know or care about, a loved one, a child, anybody, it's essential that you get the authorities involved. There are domestic abuse hotlines that you can call, but it is of utmost importance that you get somebody outside of the situation, an authority, to step in and to help. So that's the first thing, and that's a point. If you don't get anything else from this video, get outside help from an authority. The second thing that I want to discuss is that when people ask this question, it is not it's not an uncommon question. I completely understand why someone would ask this, because the way spiritual abuse works, people who are targeted in this situation have a difficult time um, distinguishing between what is the reality and what their feelings are. So let me phrase this a different way. When spiritual abuse occurs, it occurs in a targeted and a systematic manner. It's not by accident that someone might find themselves in a situation. And spiritual abusers wear masks. They appear one way in front of a lot of people, and they can appear very differently when you're having an interaction with them. And so because of this, if you're in a situation, you start to doubt your own reality. You wonder, well, goodness, this person was just at the pulpit. They were crying and talking about how much they loved us. And then in my private meeting with them, they're being very rude, dismissive, and arrogant. And so when we see this dichotomy between the public persona of a spiritual abuser and how they interact with you in private, you think, goodness, how can someone who seems so loving and so kind be so harsh and cruel? And then you start to doubt yourself. And we often do this because we attribute good things to spirituality. People who are spiritual and involved in spiritual circles and authorities, we think, well, they don't want to harm anybody. Maybe it's something I'm doing. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe my feelings are muddying up everything. But that is oftentimes not the case, right? Our feelings are important to pay attention to. And oftentimes we'll hear in spiritual circles, well, feelings aren't important, your feelings lie to you. Your feelings are a signal that something needs to be done. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are controlled by your feelings, but by all means, a good part of spiritual and emotional health is paying attention to those feelings. And so the way we deal with that, especially when you're in a situation where a spiritual abuser is wearing, is wearing a mask, they're very different in public than, from how they are in private, is document. And I mean paper and pencil or electronic, some way where you have cold hard facts that you can observe. And so that's really important. Document what happens. And this can help you too, because when you're in a situation where you are feeling heightened emotions, you feel just a variety of different things that may make it hard for you to believe what you just saw, you have a document that lists every single thing that happened. And so that's an important thing, record keeping, keeping those receipts, making sure that you have documented everything that happened, the time, the place, who did what, and how you felt from it too. And so, for instance, perhaps there's a member of your congregation, for instance, who um, you said hi to them, you looked at them, you waved at them, and they looked at you and glared at you, or they didn't respond. Or maybe it was an email that was sent to you that had abusive language in it. Everything, you want to keep track of that, and you want to document that. Okay. And then the next thing is you also want to talk to somebody who is outside of the situation. You want to talk to, perhaps a friend that is not part of that spiritual circle, a counselor, anybody, a family member that you can run things by. Because when people are in a spiritually abusive environment, they tend to have this sort of hive mentality, right? And it's from being in an environment for an extended period of time and having your way of thinking shaped a certain way. And so by having somebody outside of the situation that can give you a different point of view, that will help you see, is what I'm going through normal? And I also have another video that you can look at in the playlist that will help you determine, is my situation normal? The question asks, or the title of the video rather is my situation normal? Talking to someone who is outside of the situation is an essential part of this process, because they can help you, they can ask you the right questions, they can give you suggestions. Also getting professional help, talking to a counselor to help you understand what normal, healthy, and positive interactions with other people look like. And as a part of this too, just in general, you want to have other relationships and other sorts of interactions that are outside your spiritual environment. That's just very healthy. When spiritual abuse occurs, the spiritual abuser wants to isolate the person and make them dependent on that system. And so just a proactive, healthy way of dealing with things is making sure that you have, whether you're in a spiritually abusive situation or not, you want to make sure that you are having different friends, different interactions, different sorts of support systems that are just not that your spiritual environment. Okay, so these are just a few tips that can help you assess whether you're in a spiritually abusive situation or not. And for more information, feel free to book a 10-minute consultation with me. It's free. It's on my website, skillsetcounseling.com. Also, make sure that you have whatever questions or comments you might have, or suggestions for future videos. Please put them in the comment section, because I do read comments and I respond to them. So that's a great way to have communication open. And again, I just want to emphasize, if you feel you or other people may be in danger, it's always essential to call in an outside authority, call that hotline. If you're not sure, just do it anyway, because you don't lose anything by doing that. You are ensuring your safety and the safety of your loved ones. So I just want to leave you with that tip. And also, may you have a blessed, peaceful, and prosperous day. All right, bye-bye.